Okay, I'm recording.
I tried to sign in earlier, and for some reason I couldn't hear or see anyone. I left it and tried again.
Well, that may have been a better choice.
It depends on. I don't know what I'm seeing now, so.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
Mark.
Ah, there's our judge.
Yes, good to see you, man.
Yes, and executioner as well. How's it going, everyone? Nice to meet you, or sort of meet you all.
Yeah.
Hi. Hello.
We're doing good. We're doing good.
You look good, Tony.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks.
I see you got a cocktail as well.
Mark, you need glasses.
Actually, I do right here. I have them.
Right.
I'm farsighted, excuse me, so I don't need them for this. So yeah, how tell me all about it. How does this all start?
Sorry, you broke up there.
How does this all start?
Well, who wants to explain?
Well, usually we do introductory comments. We talk about what's coming up, any changes on the schedule. And then we go into the competition meeting. We'll start tonight with color images. And when we start, we'll step through all the images first, one at a time. Then we'll go back to the beginning, and we will announce each image as it comes up by name, and then you will review and comment on it for us and give us a score on that image. And then we'll proceed to the next image. Once we get done, if there's any ties, we'll have to resolve the ties. And then we step through them one last time to announce and show all the winners. After that, we'll go to the Monochromes and repeat the process. So it's pretty straightforward.
How often are there ties?
All the time.
Quite often.
It depends on the judge.
Some judges give everyone a 17, and there's a lot of ties.
Mark, this is Cheryl Decker. I'm the president. I'd like to welcome you and assure you that there are frequently ties, and we will give you a chance then to look at all the tied scores and pick between them for which should be first, second, or third if that's where the tie happens. So score them as you see fit. Try not to hurt us too much. We really want to have your feedback about what's good about the image, how maybe it could be better. We're all learning, so we're looking forward to hearing from you about that.
Yeah, I think my biggest fear is that I was too harsh in my judgment, my numbers. So if my numbers are off this time, I apologize a little bit, but I just went with my gut.
I'm sure we've had judges who scored everybody a 3 or less.
Yes.
All right, perfect. Sounds great.
Of course, those judges didn't live very long.
Well, those are the days where they actually had to come attend our meeting in person. You're safe because you're remote.
Like a year ago.
Sounds great.
A year ago when we had our last meeting in person.
Yeah.
Before we were shut down. But so we can talk amongst ourselves for a little while. We start at 7. I'll introduce you, Mark, and I'll say what wonderful guy you are. And
you want me to introduce myself?
No,
sorry?
We'll introduce you.
Yeah, we'll introduce you.
Oh, okay.
And then you can say anything if you want.
Sounds good.
We have about 5 more minutes. We'll make sure everybody who's joining is able. Who is that guy beside you, Penny, with clean-shaven face?
What's that?
This person beside you with a clean-shaven face.
Yes, he lost his badger.
Yeah, it's been about 3 weeks now. I'm glad to be rid of it.
You look much nicer.
Well, I wasn't real crazy about it, but it was fun for a while.
Yeah, it was a COVID thing.
Yeah. Well, I got vaccinated yesterday. Got my first vaccination.
Oh, good.
Good.
What kind did you get?
I got the Moderna, and after the resuscitation, I felt pretty good since then.
I get mine. Ron and I get ours tomorrow. And we get the Moderna.
Oh, great.
Moderna.
I was surprised. It was up at the South County Regional Center in Arroyo Grande, next to the library, and it was very well organized. And I was in and out. And well, the email they sent me said, plan on 1 to 2 hours. I said, oh boy, this is definitely a government operation here. How inefficient can you be? All you got to do is poke in the arm. But I was in and out even after the observation period. I was my appointment was for 9:15. And I was out at 9:45 or no 10. I was out at 10:30, and that included the observation and everything, and it actually went fairly smoothly. I was surprised.
Yeah, I went with Rite Aid in Santa Maria, and I was in and out in a half an hour.
Yeah,
that was
They
my
were very
experience.
well organized.
That was
And I get my second vaccine on Friday, so I'll be fully vaccinated after that.
Oh, wow.
The Santa Barbara County website, everything was booked. You couldn't make an appointment. The CDC one for Santa Maria, the first one came up was our doctor's office. And so we called them and got right in.
In San Luis Obispo County, they set up a website for scheduling appointments, and they essentially set themselves up for a distributed denial of service attack. Nobody could get in because everybody was trying to get in. And then a couple weeks later, it might have been a week or two, they set up a lottery system, and you went on the website and you signed up for the lottery system, and if you were qualified, they drew the numbers out, whatever it is. Anyway, I got in the following week after I had signed up and got my first vaccine.
Yeah.
Looking forward to joining the ranks.
So I was so happy with Ed getting his vaccine that he has a new camera now.
Oh,
Ooh,
what did you get?
it's the R5, the Canon R5.
And show it
And,
off.
It looks to be a really nice camera, but I don't know. I need an R5 for seniors book because, oh my God, there's so many options. Once I get it figured out and set up for the kind of shooting I want to do, I think it's going to be really great. The low light performance is so much better than my Mark II and the DS. Those are rather dated cameras anymore, particularly the Mark II. And the Mark II I've used for photographing musicians, and I'm, trying to do this stuff at ISO 12,800, 25.6, and they're very, very noisy on the Mark II. I spent a lot of time cleaning up the noise. But the R5 looks pretty good. I shot some stuff last night at ISO 50,000, and it looked better than the stuff I've been getting on the Mark II, so I'm looking forward to it for the musicians. It's dark in those venues. It's really dark. I've gone on websites and stuff and looked up for, photographing it in dark, and these people that are showing these blogs and stuff, they don't know what the hell dark is, man. They're happy at ISO 3200, f5.6 and a 125th of a second. You don't know anything about dark.
Is that a mirrorless?
Some of these guys on the stage lights, and I'm at ISO 12,800 at a 30th of a second at f4, and it's dark.
The R5 is mirrorless. Canon doesn't make anything new anymore that isn't mirrorless.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's mirrorless and it's smaller and lighter, and I think I'll be real happy with it if I can ever figure the damn thing out.
I read about a camera. I can't remember if it was NASA or whatever, but they had an ISO of over 1 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those are the black silicon.
Oh, they
can
could
do
be.
that.
They could be pink silicon for all I know.
Well, the black silicon, I'm surprised we haven't seen it in the cameras, and I suspect that it has something to do with color rendition because you can make your standard chips and then it's an add-on process. It's not really that big a deal to do it. You could easily just add that on to your standard production facility without having to redo the whole thing from start to finish.
Well, this particular camera costs like $120 million.
Yeah, well, that's because NASA's buying it. If you and I bought it, we could probably get it for 50,000. But yeah, I think the black silicon, I think it has to do, I'm just guessing, it has to do with color rendition because it's been a process that's been available now for probably a decade. And we haven't seen it in, consumer cameras. So I think it has something to do with color rendition, but I don't really know.
Well, folks, it's 7:01. And
let's hit it, baby.
I will call our meeting to order here. And thank you all for being here. And the first thing I want to say is we are going to do the mute a little differently tonight.
Cool.
At our program meeting, Greg was muted us, and I'm not sure that worked optimally. So tonight, you are all going to mute yourselves. There's a little button at the bottom of the screen that says mute. Except for our judge. Please don't mute yourself.
And the scorekeepers and the host.
You know, when we go back and review and we score people and give them their awards, you may unmute yourself and make a comment, and then please mute yourself again. If I hear background noise or things that are disruptive because you're not muted, I might embarrass you. I will ask you to mute in the middle of it. So I'm the hall monitor. Just one last note. If you haven't paid your dues, please pay them. I think everybody that's on tonight has paid their dues. So thank you. And I'm going to ask Penny to give us a quick update on, because there's been some things changed about field trips. Would you alert us to those changes, Penny?
Yes. So the big change is, and it's no big surprise, the Lighthouse photo shoot that's in evening that was scheduled for this Friday has been moved to April 9th. And I think anyone that had a prior ticket for that event probably got notice from the Lighthouse people and from Bob Mihalik. Rosie, did you get a ticket?
I didn't. So do I just use that? Do I just go online or?
Did you talk with Bob?
I just asked him if there was anything open, and he said there was one left.
Okay, you need to talk with Bob again then.
Okay.
Because it shows that it's sold out, but he's saying that there's some left.
So I'll interject. I'm unable to go because I will be out of town, and they're going to refund my money, so my spot will be open.
Well, maybe that's why there's some flux in the ticket availability and stuff. So Cheryl, maybe you and Rosie and Bob can get together on an email and figure out what you would like to do. I'm not sure how that would work.
Bob, about it.
Yes, Bob is the main contact on that. He's the one running the show. I'm just helping. So anyway, so that's April 9th for those that have a way to get there. And it sounds like you might call Bob if you are interested and see what the status is on getting into the ticket line there. I think they cut back on the number of people that they had slots for just because of COVID. So I have a feeling that's maybe what's happened with numbers. Okay, so instead of that, I went ahead and thought of boring off the Highway 1 coastline on Friday afternoon and shooting till the light's gone and then head on back home. Since we'd already put the time aside, some people might have had planned for it, and let's do something different. So it's in your email if you haven't seen it yet. We're meeting at 3:30, I think it was, at the Elephant Seal Vista Point north of San Simeon. And then going up the coast from there, with stopping in Ragged Point for something to eat. Now, I don't, somebody said something about rain on Friday somewhere a day ago. So, you know, if the weather's not your cup of tea, that's okay. I'm going to go anyway. And Ed and I might take our truck camper and find a place to stay the night on the coast too, if there's an opening at one of the campgrounds. So, so that's this Friday. And then we have the Pinnacles trip is definitely a go forward. They're already putting notices up on the website for Pinnacles saying we must get there before 10 o'clock in the morning, or maybe have to be in lines waiting to get in. As people leave, they'll let new people through. So if you were thinking of going on that field trip, please arrive by 9 a.m. and go to the end of the road entering the east side. Go to the end of the road to the Moses Spring parking lot, and that's where we'll meet at 9 o'clock. Please let me know if you're going. I'm going to be sending out another email next week because I'm hoping they're going to open up the Miracle caves. It depends on what's going on with their COVID restrictions. But usually by the end of March, they let people through the cave. Previously, it's closed because of the bats having their babies and stuff, so they close it up. And they typically open by the end of March, though, for a short period. So I'm hoping that will be open, and I'll send out emails with Rosie's help to let you know what's happening with the Pinnacles. And that's the 27th for on Saturday. If you are thinking of going and interested in carpool, if you're COVID safe and can be with somebody else that's COVID safe, then you can let me know, and I hopefully are hearing from you if you are interested in the field trip, so that we can possibly carpool if it's a safe thing to do. What are your questions about the Pinnacles?
Well, I had been planning to go, but I couldn't get a camping spot, and I tried that place you told me, but it's got horses and lots of other animals that my husband is probably allergic to, so we won't be going after all. But we do plan to go to San Simeon on Friday.
Oh, good. Well, I did see that they have some campsites available on Thursday night. And then they have first come, first serve campsites there at Pinnacles. So if you're there the night before and then can get into the first come, first serve because you're right there, I think you have a good chance of scoring one of those sites. There's 5 of them. So you might consider that. Reserving for Thursday and then be there first thing to score one of the first come, first serve.
How do you get those first come, first serve? You have to go to the entrance and line up, or? Yeah,
that's generally how you do it at the campsite. So when you checked in, you'd say, I want to be on, to get one of the other campsites, and see what they tell you is the best way to do that.
Okay, I'll talk to Ken about that. Well, there he is, showing up in the Netherland over there.
Oh yeah, there he is.
He's headless.
He lost his head.
He does that a lot. Usually when he's mad at me.
Okay, so April, we have the Lighthouse photo shoot for those that have tickets. We're gonna.
Thanks. And that way.
Penny, you're on mute.
Well,
There you go.
There you go.
over,
Somebody,
66,
some
and
ghost got me, huh?
are, no flowers at all. It's very dry. It's not green. Like, I don't think they've gotten as much rain as we have. So I didn't dip down into Carrizo Plain very far. I went a little ways in, but I saw nothing that looked very interesting. It's still pretty dry over here. So just a FYI.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good to
we got
know.
a lot more rain up in the Monterey County,
Yeah, I think
where
maybe
Pinnacles
more
is. So
up that way.
Hey,
Any other questions about the Pinnacles or any other field trip questions?
Nope.
All right. I
Okay.
think I'm here.
If you will all remember, mute yourselves, and except Tony, I'd like you to introduce our judge for tonight.
Right. Hello. Our judge for tonight, oh, there he is Mark Velasquez, a friend I've known a long time. We were colleagues working for the Santa Maria Times.
Nice.
We did photography stuff at Hancock College together, and Mark is a very talented photographer and an artist as well. He's a great guy, and I'm looking forward to him giving us some really good judging. Do you have anything you want to say, Mark?
All right, let me unmute myself. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much. It's an honor to just be asked to be a part of this group. I'm a lifelong Santa Maria native, and I went to art school in Seattle, and I've done just about every kind of photography there is. And I also teach part-time at Hancock College, so I used that part of my brain to critique these images. And let's make some people cry. Let's do it.
Are you going to, would you like to score, Penny? Are
Okay.
you going to Penny?
Who's going to score color?
how about I'll do the first one, whatever which one are we
We're going to
doing?
do color first.
Okay, I'll do color.
Okay, we step through each image first. Okay, this is our first image. We're 26 total images.
Oh boy.
The title is Another Way to See the Half Dome.
Okay, Mark, we're ready for you to comment.
Oh, okay. And so the three options were, or the three categories were, what were the exact terms again? What was the first one? I know it's the second one's composition, and the third one.
It's technical composition and interest.
So I scored this one a total of a 9. Because the composition wasn't that it was good, but it wasn't great. And overall, the reflection works, but judging against all the other ones, especially the things that aren't in reflection were just kind of not attended to. And so it didn't grab me the way that some other nature landscapes did. And so I scored it a weak 9, but my scores get higher from here, I promise.
Huh.
So this
Balboa, hold it up. This is the title is Balboa Park in the Morning.
So I'm the only one scoring this completely?
Yes.
Oh wow, I didn't realize I had such power. So I scored this at 11. Technique wise, I scored a 3. Compositionally, it's a 5. I think it's really a strong composition, even though it's pretty straightforward. But overall, for my personal grab factor, I scored it a 3 because I don't know, the skies are just a little blown out and muted, and it's a little too high contrast for me. I'd like a little detail in the shadows more, and yeah, I don't know. That's just, and I'd also like it to be a little more symmetrical across the median, but you know, so there you go.
Black Hero.
So this one I scored a 12, and I scored it 4 across the board. Again, I see that they're going for a higher contrast, but there's no detail in the shadows, and I kind of opened it up in Photoshop and brightened it up just to see if there was, and there it just isn't. But also I had a question. Are photographers allowed to submit more than one per contest?
Yes.
Okay, because I noticed that a couple of these images look very similar, and so I judged different ones of the same style. So I assume the same photographer differently according to quality. So.
Okay, well, you shouldn't make that assumption.
I didn't, but I still went with my approach.
Okay.
This is
Cloud.
also, sorry, go ahead.
Cloud is the title.
Okay, this is also a 12 with 4 across the board. The clouds are great. I really like the composition, but it just feels overall a little muddy. It's just kind of lacking in the reflection aspect of it, kind of just more of a punch. It's just not as I don't know, captivating to me, and it looks a little oversaturated artificially to me, which in my opinion affects the technique. I am even though I do process my images and believe in a fair level of post-production, when people kind of rely on it, and it looks like they kind of pulled in a lot of the highlights in Photoshop in the raw file, it just looks a little artificial, and I'd like to have more of it done in camera.
What's your score, please, on that?
12.
Thank you. Contour of City.
I scored this a 16. Even though technically I don't think it was that much of a challenge for them to take. This is where the details and the shadows aren't as important because it is so contrast, and unlike a flat reflection, their reflection is a curved surface. And so the colors are, complementary, and they work really well. And the way the foreground tiles or whatever those steps are, it mirrors the the squares are rectangles of the reflection itself. And so I thought it was a strong image.
Endless possibilities.
I'll get it, I promise. So I scored this a 15. I really, it's a very simple composition, but I think it's successful. The colors are really soft and pretty. The silhouettes are just very nice. It's very painterly, and there's detail, but there's also a lack of detail. And for this particular image, it just really works.
Floating flower.
And this is number 7.
Yes.
So I scored this 18. The rule of thirds works pretty well here. The reflection, even though it might feel almost artificial, it works really well. And I don't know what level of f-stop this is, but the depth of field is really, really nice, even if it is artificial. The blur might even be a little artificial in Photoshop, but it looks really good. I mean, you can even see the pollen on the stamen of the flower and on the petals, and the colors are great. The pink really jumps out from the background. Yeah, I really like that one.
Mirror image.
So I scored this a 13 because even though the composition is nice and the reflection, and I'm a big fan of geometry in photos in general, and so the architecture is really beautiful. But it's still it feels a little muddy in the middle of the whole composition. And I think even if they would have maybe dodged and burned or put a little more contrast in the upper shadow of the reflection, I think it would have just punched a little more. But so yeah, I scored at that.
Redondo Harbor.
This was my unfortunately least favorite photo of this group. It's just, I can tell that it's a reflection, obviously, but it looks more of a after shot, like it wasn't really, it doesn't feel very thought out, and it just feels kind of muddy and muted and not very interesting, I guess, for the lack of a better term. So I scored it a 6.
Reflection in red.
I scored this an 18. I really enjoyed this one for the same reasons I described the earlier one with the depth of field. The red, it's a great color. It really punches. I don't know where this was taken, if it was on ice or something, but the weird repetition of those lines and the reflection are really beautiful. It's just, I think it's a solidly nice image. I like the composition. Yeah.
Sierra Madre reflection.
And this is number 11.
Yes.
14. I thought this was a great composition. I thought the colors are great. The complementary colors are really beautiful. But here again, I thought it needed to be just a little higher contrast. The grays are a little too, again, muddy, for the lack of a better term. It just needs a little brighter highlights to make it pop a little more. It just feels a little like, if this was in a dark room in a black and white class, I'd say to add more magenta to make it pop a little more.
Sunset in both directions.
I scored this a 14, but I do like it. I just I know that it's digital and it's cropped as a square, and it just feels a little overly photoshopped. And I would like a deeper depth of field to have the mountains more in focus than they are. And yeah.
Winter reflections.
I scored this a 15 because unlike the very first image that we talked about, I think the foreground image in the snow in the background is much more attended to. and it plays well with the reflection in the water. And I really like the contrast of the image. I like the details. Everything seems very in focus in a very clean way. And so I scored that a 15.
L cap.
I scored this an 18. I really like it. There's just a lot going on, and if you really look into it and zoom in and get the details, there is a lot of detail, a lot of branches, and a lot of chaos. But if you zoom out, the thumbnail is easy to read. It's very symmetrical. It's very beautiful. The reflection really feels almost artificial in its reflection, but it's really well done. And even though the highlights are a little blown out, it really works well in this particular instance. So I give it an 18.
El Capitan.
This was another image I wasn't crazy about. It's so dark in the shadows that there's nothing there. The reflection is a little, it just seems like as if someone pulled it out of their hard drive to make it apply for a reflection theme. And so I scored it a 6 because it wasn't very interesting to me.
It's a Wonderful Life.
I scored this an 18. I really like this image also. Sunsets are pretty easy to capture in this area, but to get a reflection with the lighting, there's a sunburst filter clearly on the lens. The silhouette of the pier looks great. The colors are just really nice. And again, it's very painterly. And a lot of these photos could easily slip into cliche when you shoot a pier like this at sunset, but it feels like a good solid image.
Mirrors on the Ceiling.
So for me and my personal style, I scored this a 21. I really liked this all the way across the board. It is almost exactly fitting the frame as if these lines were drawn in Photoshop. It's just a clean, crisp image. The reflection is confusing in a good way. I really enjoy this image in a lot of ways. The only thing I would make it better is to kind of up the saturation just slightly, but I really like this image.
Morning Canoe Ride.
I scored this image a 12. It's a good image. It's compositionally very nice, but it's just, I've seen this photo 1,000 times in 1,000 different ways, and it just isn't, it doesn't grab me the way some others have. And I think it could have been either attended to in post-production better, or maybe shot from a lower angle at a better, and made it a little better. But yeah, so I scored.
Mountain Reflection.
I scored this a 15, and like I said about a previous image, I just want this to be a little more high contrast. I think it's a great composition. I love the colors. I think if it was turned vertically, it would be this really abstract rock climbing tower, and really kind of screw with your perceptions of things. But yeah, the colors are a little artificially enhanced, and it looks like they color shifted it a little odd. But yeah, so I scored it a 15.
Perception of a Tree.
That's a great title. I scored this also a 15. I like a lot of things about this. I like the contrast. I like the composition. It just feels like it could have either had more tree, or just a different angle would have been better for this particular shot. But I do think this is a solid image, and I really like that the mountain is in focus.
Reflections near Annenberg.
I scored this 18, and the only thing that didn't make it a 21 was that compositionally, I think if some of the geometry lined up to the corners of the frame of the image, it would have made it fit compositionally better in the frame. But I really like how all the geometry is reflected and made wavy, and yet still plays with inside the lines of the other building itself. And there's a lot, there's the tiny window of blue sky there on the side. I think this has just a lot of strong aspects to it.
Reflections of a refugee at the Wall of Peace.
Even though it's a reverent place to be, photographically, I have a strict rule about selective color that immediately marks it out of good quality, sadly. And the black and white is nice, but I wish they would have just left it all black and white instead of leaving the blue of the umbrella. And so I just scored it a 9.
The Red Boat.
I scored this 19. It's a really strong image, and even though it could lean towards a bit of a cliche of an image I've seen, many times before in other photo books and things, being able to see this image and capturing it and framing it a certain way is very technically difficult to do. And I really like the composition, and overall, I just get a strong feeling of solidity of the boat and the abstract elusiveness of the water reflection. This image just, plus with the very red, white, and blue kind of very punchy colors, it just kind of works.
What was the score again?
19, I'm sorry.
19.
Barricading Reflections.
I really liked this image, but I scored it a 12 because, once again, there's no the shadow is just too, it's just not high contrast enough. It doesn't jump out. The overall composition is very or the overall tone of it is very muddy, and I just like there to be better highlights and have it be more saturated, but the colors are just so muted that it takes away from, when you look at an instrument like this, you think of music, which is about vitality and amplification. And so to have the colors just be so flat, it makes me think of a flat musical note, which isn't, of course, a good thing. So I scored it a 12.
Nothing Can Distract Me.
I also really like this. My fiance is a huge bird lover, and so I've spent a lot of time looking at birds in the last few years. But once again, since I've taken a lot of photos of birds in the last couple of years, I know that I get a lot of shots like this, and this image represents the thing that I don't like in my own images, which is, it again is very muddy, and it's hard to make the subject jump out from the background. And so if you just kind of squinted and looked at the reflection, you would almost not see the bird. And that's bothers me. I have a lot of friends who shoot a lot of nature photography, and they really are able to make the animals jump out. So I scored this a 12.
Reflections Within Reflections.
Wait, is this 26?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. I scored that one a 13, the previous one. I'm sorry. So, okay, so this one is the last one. I scored this, unfortunately, I scored this an 8. I like it compositionally, but that's really the only way I like it. It's just way too busy, and there's just a lot going on, and the reflection, instead of enhancing the image, makes it distracting.
Mark, are you there?
Yes.
All right, because we lost your voice.
Oh, sorry. I said, so it's just, I just find the reflection distracting rather than enhancing. So I scored it an 8.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we have some time to settle.
Yes, we're looking at 18 has several ties. Number 7, number 10, number 14, number 16, and number 21.
Yeah, see, I thought there would be other judges. I didn't think I'd be the only judge, and I thought everyone would compile their scores together. So sorry about that.
That's fine. This is fine.
So
We have Floating Flower, Reflection in Red, El Cap, It's a Wonderful Life, and Reflections Near Annenberg. So we need third place and 2 honorable mentions. So you could pick your top 3.
I think the first place would be the El Cap.
Okay, hold on a sec.
so that would be second place.
Third place.
Third place. Okay.
Okay. And 2 honorable mentions.
From this set, I would say the Pier and the Building.
Okay. Let's see. It's a Wonderful Life. And Reflections through Annenberg. Okay, we're ready.
Hot diggity.
Okay, this is Another Way to See the Half Dome by Flavio Parigi.
Oh, yeah.
Balboa Park in the Morning by Rosie Brancaccio. Black Mirror by Tony Martindale. Clouds by Larry Decker. Contours of the Getty by Ed E. Powell. Endless Possibilities by Jeannie Sparks. Floating Flower by Elaine Calvert. Mirror Image by Gregory Doudna. Redondo Harbor by Bernard Fallon. Reflection in Red by Frank Trump. Sierra Madre Reflection by Cheryl Decker. Sunset in Both Directions by Chuck Ubley. Winter Reflections by Penny Powell. El Cap in third place by Larry Decker.
Hey, Larry.
Yay, Larry. El Capitan by Flavio Parigi. It's a Wonderful Life and honorable mention by Jeannie Sparks. People can unmute themselves if they like for this section. Mirrors on the Ceiling. In first place with a 21, Tony Martindale.
That's a cool shot.
Hey, Tony.
Way to go.
Morning Canoe Ride by Gregory Doudna. Mountain Reflection by Rosie Brancaccio. Perception of a Tree by Eddie Powell.
Cool shot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Reflections Near Annenberg and honorable mention Chuck Ubley.
Nice job, Chuck.
Yay. Reflections of a Refugee at the Wall of Peace by Cheryl Decker. The Red Boat in second place by Elaine Calvert.
Well done, Izzy.
Nice, I like that.
Thank you.
Baritone Reflections by Chuck Ubley.
I like that one a lot, Chuck, and I'm willing to bet that whoever owns that and plays it would think very highly of it also. In fact, I think anyone who plays music would. What I see in that is the portrayal of the instrument, not as an end in itself, but as a tool to producing the music. It has a sense to it that's not about grandstanding and showing off, but there's just a sense of being used to produce the emotions of music. I think most musicians would be very pleased with that.
Compositionally,
if you're not speaking.
Thanks, Ed. On the stream, it does look flat. I don't know why it looks so flat on the meeting, but oh well.
Okay, this is Nothing Can Distract Me by Jeannie Sparks. Reflections Within Reflections by Gregory Dowda.
Okay, we'll move on to Monochromes.
Cool stuff there.
Yeah.
We have 11 monochrome images. We'll step through them once. Okay, this is our first image, Mark.
This is titled Mirror Lake.
Mark?
Mark.
sorry. I scored this a 16. I think compositionally, this is just a beautiful image. The only thing that I would critique is that the highlights are a little too blown out, and that on the mountain, it's a little gray. I think you could darken it in and add a little more contrast to it. But it's a really strong image. I gave it a 16.
Mount Watkins and Mirror Lake.
I scored this a 12, but only because the sky is so blown out that the richness of those clouds would really make this image so very strong. But compositionally, again, I think it's a really perfect image.
Performer holding mirror.
I scored this a 15. The composition is a little odd, but in a good way. I like it. And I don't know the texture of that reflection, or if it was added in post. It looks kind of like a paper type folded texture on top of it, but I think it works well. So I scored it a 15.
Wandering.
I scored this a 7 because it just, I think it could be a good image, but it just, it didn't grab me, and that it just felt a little, I don't know.
Reflections in the harbor.
I think this is a very strong image. I scored this an 18. I just love how chaotic the boats are, and how the masts, even though they look like musical annotations of crazy wavy lines, kind of clean up the craziness of the man-made objects above. I think it's a really strong image. I like it a lot, so I scored it 18.
Salt Playa Streets.
I scored this 13. And only because, again, I want a little more detail or contrast or sharpness in the plateau valley area. And I love the background. I just want to see more of it. It looks as if it was artificial. Like, I'm sure there's atmospheric perspective happening there. It just looks a little too blown out.
Swim reflection.
The only reason I scored this a 12 is because it almost looks like too easy of an image. And compositionally, I think if you would have just crouched down a little bit and shot up a little, gotten a little different angle of it, it would have made it a 21.
The Cathedral Upside Down.
Wow, that's a good title. I scored this. This is number 8.
Yes.
I scored this 18. I really like how the shadow and the reflection is basically cutting across the frame of the image. I think if they would have just cropped it in just a little bit more and made that diagonal of the dark and light across the middle more, it would be a 21, but I think it's a very strong image.
Wading Trees.
I scored this a 19. I really enjoyed it. I love how all the lines look almost completely vertical. The reflection is really captured well, and I think it's very strong.
Store reflection number 4.
This image to me is practically perfect in every way, like Mary Poppins. It's a 21. I really love everything about it. I love that everything is so in focus that it looks like you're looking at an escalator, and that someone in Photoshop just cut it up into strips and stitched it together unevenly. I think it's really well done. I love how the lines are going into the corner of the frame. Yeah, I think it's a very strong image.
Tub full of water.
I scored this a 13, but every time I view it, it grows on me more. I don't know if it was shot with a lens baby or what kind of attachment it or what gobo kind of thing it was used, but it's really nice image. But I scored it a 13 because I just thought it was lacking some small elements.
Okay, we just have 2 images that tied, number 5 and number 8. And out of these 2, we're going to pick a third and honorable mention.
Excuse me.
Just number 5, Reflections in the Harbor. And the Cathedral Upside Down, number 8.
I think the boat one is just a little stronger.
Okay, I'm ready. Mirror Lake by Larry Decker. Mount Watkins and Mirror Lake by Cheryl Decker. Performer Mirror by Jim McGinnis. Quandary by Ed E. Powell.
And I win the bet with Penny too. I told her that'd be the lowest score of the night, and it is.
Reflections in the Harbor, and 3rd place by Rosie Brancasio.
Very nice, Rosie.
Salt Playa Streams by Penny Powell. Swim the Reflection by Tony Martindale. The Cathedral Upside Down and honorable mention by Flavio Parigi.
Yeah,
Sorry, can I ask you one question? Mark, sorry, you said during your comment, you said that it's better if I crop. Can you repeat?
Yes, I just think that if you crop
on the left.
Yes, just crop it in just a little bit to where the dark stones are towards the top corner.
Okay.
And bring up the bottom just a little bit.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Waiting Trees in second place by Elaine Calvert.
Yay, Elaine.
Store Reflections number 4, first place by Jim McInnes.
Oh, so nice. Good job, Jim.
Yeah.
Yep, nice.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, it is great. Tub Full of Water by Jim McInnes.
That's all she wrote, folks.
That was some great images. Really nice.
Yeah. Very much so. And please let me just say, feel free to go to my website, markvelasquez.com, and send me an email submitting any image you see on the website.
What was that again?
The images what?
Feel free to go to my website, markvelasquez.com, and just totally tear me apart on any image you see on the website.
We're gonna go there and cry. Oh, you made me cry.
Like,
Asked you to
thank
do
you so very
this,
much
you
for
know.
judging for us tonight.
I'm gonna do that. Have all of my friends do the same thing.
Yeah, you got a winning image too, but finally you got one that didn't win.
Yeah.
Well, the whole thing about it, Mark, really is what we're interested in is getting reactions and responses. It's you know, we all like to get the big scores, but what's really important to us is knowing what other people are reacting and responding to with our images. And you were very straightforward with that. And I, for one, appreciate it. And I think I could speak for the others. It's not a matter of whether or not we agree with you, but getting that input, that other perspective is what's valuable to us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I agree, Ed, you should have been the worst one of the night.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm trying to be agreeable.
Yes.
But I'm also really happy that Jim, who won like everything last year, finally had one that bucketer.
Yeah, but
Oh,
he did
everybody's
have
fading out.
spectacular perfect.
Where'd you go? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend everyone.
Tony, we want to know how much you paid Mark for the 21.
Oh, nothing. I haven't actually seen him in the flesh, I'll say, but not in the flesh strictly. You know what I mean? For years, it's been years since I've actually seen you in person, isn't it? Mark? I was looking for a new judge for us, and I thought of Mark, and I thought he's done a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That was a great image, Tony.
I was surprised to see so many flowers in this category. I entered the one, by the way, all three of those floating flowers were by 3 different photographers, if you hadn't noticed, which I thought was just interesting because I think that comes from us being stuck at home, looking for reflections.
Yeah. I thought about putting a flower in my bathtub and photographing, but I didn't get around to it.
Well,
my flower was a true reflection. It wasn't photoshopped. I floated it.
Yeah.
I printed a picture and put the picture underwater, and then I floated the flower on top of the picture.
Oh, that's clever.
I just used a piece of glass with some black paper underneath.
Yeah.
The fuchsia was mine, but it was shot on slide film, 240 slide film, and so it doesn't have the dynamic range that they.
Well, yeah, you wouldn't have any detail and shadows if it's just black paper. It would just be a black background.
Oh yeah, but it's glass reflecting the light.
Yeah.
Glass on top of the paper.
I thought it was very effective.
But yeah.
Took my color photos out of National Geographic and photographed those and sent them in.
Mark, you that one tub full of flower or tub full of water, that was made with a Petzval lens, which is a lens. I don't know if you know about it, but it was designed in 1840. And it's designed, it's got a control like your focus ring, but what it does is it controls the amount of Bach that you get. And that's why you see that very swirly Bach. It's been reproduced by the Lomo company that does all the Lomo lenses and stuff like that. It's a manual focus, 58 millimeter, and the f-stops are controlled by inserting at the top of the lens an insert that actually has the f-stop in it. So,
yeah. I would like to remind everyone that Jim has not bought new equipment in 150 years.
What did you say?
I just wanted to remind everybody that you haven't bought any new equipment in over 150 years.
Well, I will say I have a lens baby, the original lens generation. That does exactly that. It has an accordion belt. F-stop. And images look similar to that. They were made in the 2000s. I probably don't know what you're referencing. I'm a big fan of using lenses from. I have a lot of lenses from the 20s and 30s that have adapted to, contemporary Canon mounts.
Right.
But so I'm a big fan of. Sometimes I'll change the f-stop just by putting my lens. So I totally understand.
Yeah, this particular lens is the barrel is brass, so it's really beautiful, and of course it's also very heavy.
Yeah.
In fact, I just happen to have it sitting here.
That is pretty.
Yeah, you can see this here. That's the focus ring.
Wow.
And this right here, let's see if I can see it. This is the f-stop right here. See if I can get a better way to hold that. I'm sorry, that's not the f-stop. That's the. But so if I get this going here, hang on a second, get these separated. This for this 58 millimeter lens, this is a 5.6.
Wow.
Right.
That's the size of the aperture.
So this is that images look very similar to that. So it has a bellows. And you put these strings in for different f-stops.
Right.
Yeah.
Very similar to end result.
And they're both manual. You have to do all, Jim's is manual in every sense of the word, where you have to drop everything in.
Yeah, exactly.
I know even lens.
This is harder because you have to focus when you do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All very sophisticated compared to my pinhole holder here.
It was designed by a German-Hungarian mathematician named, his last name Petzval. That's where it gets its name. And now Voigtlander actually took the patent and produced it, mass produced it, and Petzval got almost nothing for the design. He got screwed basically by Voigtlander.
Yeah. So, is there anything else you'd like to say about what part?
Say that again.
Is there anything else you'd like to say about some of the photos you've seen? Any comments in particular?
I really just can't wait to see the different themes. See, because photography. At least I know speaking for myself. My work is all over the place. So portraits, animals, landscapes, and so I look forward to another theme.
To the bottom of the Mariana Trench.
Yeah. Yes. Underwater stuff. Yeah. It's cool. Anybody else got any comments about the pictures?
Or any questions for me? Anything?
I'd like to know the image that you had, Tony. That was a great image with the reflection. It was very confusing looking at that, trying to figure out where the reflection was coming from, and
Yeah, that's why the title's the mirrors on the ceiling.
yeah, that was great. It was
When you stand back there, it's reflecting the buildings below.
on the street level, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's Chicago. That was the Willis Tower. Up at the top of the Willis Tower in Chicago.
Perfect for this category. That was great.
Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else got any comments? Hello.
I wanted to. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dan.
Bernard Fallon here. Hey, there was a really interesting commentary, Mark, but in a very cynical sort of way. I'm honored to have the lowest points. I think I got the lowest, and I think we should start a salon de refusé, like the Impressionists, for those who did get the lowest points. And I hope I have Jim's support with that. But I had to make one comment, is that most of the pictures had reflections in them, but the reflections didn't dominate. And mine was one of the few that was purely a reflection in the water. What do you have to say about that? It's like you missed the point. It was a good reflection.
Which one was yours, Bernard?
Mine was the abstract water reflections that was very, very abstract on a boat superstructure.
Bernard, I will use a phrase that I've told many of my students, which is I am entitled to my right to make I am entitled to my wrong opinion.
Oh, absolutely.
I have a question, but is my audio is really screwed up. Is everybody's audio screwed up, or
This is one of the worst nights we've had.
the audio's bad.
I'm having a tough time hearing.
We sound like we're all underwater.
Right. Okay.
Mine was in the water.
You know, we have this problem. Can I make a?
The under,
We have this problem every time. I'm wondering because a lot of Zoom meetings where it's not.
Hey, Diane, want to speak? Okay, now speak, Diane.
Yes, I had submitted a picture, I think way too early, and it wasn't shown.
Oh. Oh,
Greg, you're muted. You're muted, Greg.
I'm sorry.
You need to resubmit it for the next competition.
Well, but it was a reflection. So what's the next?
Well, it was submitted in February. This is March, and the March competition.
It was submitted for the March. It was submitted for the March reflections. That's what I said it was for.
I don't remember it that far back.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, I got it.
It's used to all of us being last minute and scrambling to get our interviews in on time. I'm always very last minute. You're just too efficient, Diane.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, generally we don't submit images until 4 or 5 days before the competition.
Okay, I understand.
But as far as your reflection photo, Diane, next month has no category, so it's still okay to enter that photo if you would like to.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
You'll need to resubmit it though, because I don't keep the images after the competition's over.
Well, you didn't have them on there, so it's, pretty obvious. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So I wanted to say one comment about mine. Mine was the one with the spear, and The starburst effect actually is from my lens. I had a real small f-stop, but I did have to paint a couple of lights because they weren't showing up, those ones that were really far out there. So I photoshopped in a couple of them.
Oh, that's fine. That's what.
My approach to Photoshop, which I do a lot of, is as long as I can't tell it's Photoshop, I don't care how it got in the image.
Yeah.
Good one.
That's the way it should be.
Yeah, I tried to make it look like it was natural.
Yeah. Yes. Well, thanks for doing a good job, Mark.
We appreciate your comments. This is really helpful.
I look forward to you all. I look forward to you all toilet papering my house later. So.
Actually, I think now's the time to invite you to become a member of the camera club if you'd like. Yeah.
Yeah. Join us.
We got Tony here. I used to work for Santa Maria Times. You're in good company.
Yeah.
I work for pretty much every media company in town, TV companies, newspaper, everything. So I've done a little bit of everything in my time.
Everything's different to me.
I'm going to go on your website and look at your work. I'm not going to tear it apart, but I never had the
Anybody
chance to
here
look at your website this week. So, but I look forward to seeing them.
Yes, please. Hopefully, I don't know if everyone has my email, but feel free to email me with any questions or anything. I'm, as you can tell, I'm a horrible brute of a human being. So please, to me in any way.
The toilet paper your website.
It's not an easy job, and it's hard. It's hard to be honest because nobody, it's hard. So we appreciate when you give us an honest critique.
So the art college I went to in Seattle is a 150-year-old art school, a Cornish College of the Arts. It's been there forever, and all the teachers are professional working artists. And if after your 4 years of college you haven't cried in at least 3 critiques, you can't graduate. So it's that level of complete honesty. Some would say brutal honesty, but I think that's how you grow as an artist. I cried in the most when not that I want to make people cry, but I think that people need to know where they can make their work better.
Yeah, I think first we need to make the image for ourselves and be happy with it. But it's nice to know how it's received, and you want to. You're hoping your goal is that other people feel something when they look at your work. So it is nice to know how it's viewed.
I've had a lot of students who use. I mean, it's a valid excuse, but it can be a cop out when you receive too much criticism. They'll say, "Well, I just take it only for me," and I said, "Well, if you're only making it for you, you're not showing it to anybody, then you're never gonna grow more." And it's like making food that no one ever tastes, music that no one ever hears.
Yeah.
You have to put it out there in the world and go to that last level of uncomfortability to be vulnerable with people.
Yeah, it's hard to make yourself, with competitions. I have to say that you get to a point where, you don't want to make a picture for the judge. You need to take risks and still be creative. And sometimes your biggest risk, you're going to get the lowest score. I've entered competitions. I have gone away from a competition having the lowest score of the night as well, and I don't mind that. But I mean, I think it's important to take risks and not to lose that creative side of yourself, where you're not afraid just to do something crazy and go for it, and if that's what makes you happy.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't feel bad if don't feel bad when you get a low score. It's just not everybody sees the same way. Thank goodness.
That's right. That's right.